Okay, we're going to start chapter 1 on our book of Who Was George Washington, a boy from Virginia. On the night of February 22nd, 1732, Augustine Washington sat by a table by candlelight. A family Bible lay open before him. Gus, as everyone called him, was a tobacco farmer in the colony of Virginia. With a pen made from the quill of a turkey, he wrote down the name of his son George, who had been born that very morning. George's mother, Mary, was Gus's second wife. His first wife had died, leaving him with 2 teenage sons. One night long ago, before George was born, a bolt of lightning shot down the chimney of the Washington's farmhouse. It killed a woman who was visiting Mary. Mary worried that the lightning was a sign of bad luck. It might mean that there'd be something wrong with her baby. But George was a strong, healthy baby. People said he looked like his mother. He grew into a tall, athletic boy who loved to ride horses through the green countryside. And years later, he was known as the best horseman in Virginia. When George was about 7, the family moved to Ferry Farm. It was across the river from Fredericksburg, Virginia. By this time, George had a younger sister, Betty, and 3 younger brothers, Samuel, John, and Charles. People said George and Betty looked a lot alike. As a grown woman, she would do funny imitations of her famous brother. There isn't any information about how George and his father got along, but we do know he wasn't close to his mother. Mary Washington was a cold, bossy woman. All George's friends were scared of her. Strangely, she never took pride in her eldest son, not even after he became president. His letters to her would begin "Honored Madam" instead of "Dear Mother," and he never introduced his wife Martha to her. The person he loved best in the world was his kind half-brother Lawrence. Lawrence was Gus's oldest son. He was 14 years older than George. Lawrence had gone to school in England. He had learned Greek and Latin. He knew how to dress like a gentleman and act like a gentleman. There wasn't enough money to send George off to England. Instead, he was taught at home, probably by his father and Lawrence. George was great at math. Anything with numbers can come easily to him. But he was a terrible speller. It embarrassed him all his life. When George was only 11, his father died. From time to time, George was invited for long visits to Mount Vernon. This was the home of Lawrence and his new bride, Anne Fairfax. George loved it there. In 1746, George was asked to move in for good, and off he went. He probably was happy, too, to get away from his mother. That is the end of chapter 1 of the book of Who Was George Washington.